Fantasy fanfiction. Homelander is coming, fortunately I am Doomsday Superman. Chapter 1. Yi Meng fell asleep. Consciousness is like a stone thrown into a lake, sinking towards the bottomless lake bottom. It also seems to pass through some outer portal, towards an endless traction. This subtle sense of ignorance and clear cognition. Really. Yi Meng suddenly realized that he was dreaming the same dream as last time, thousands of nights. In that dream, he was a sword. A long sword of unknown appearance sealed in a small space similar to a storage bag. As a sword, Yi Meng couldn't move and couldn't speak, all he could feel was darkness, silence, and a long boring time. In the dream, I can only quietly feel the passage of time and gravel from the edge of the sword until I wake up. Day and night, repeatedly. That feeling is countless times more tormenting than being in jail. Having the same weird dreams all the time, even when you wake up, you can still remember them very clearly. This is definitely not a normal phenomenon, and it will also make your heart become tired and vicissitudes, and will wear down your will for a long time. Yi Meng almost couldn't take it anymore and was going to see a psychiatrist. Even weirder things are yet to come. Recently, some subtle changes have taken place in Yi Meng's self outside the dream world. For example, his hair has gradually become as hard as metal, and the newly bought scissors can't even repair his bangs when they are curled. For another example, his fingernails became very sharp, and if he was not careful, he would leave smooth cuts on the desk and daily necessities. It's almost like a sword. Yes, you may not believe it when you say it. Yi Meng himself was in disbelief. In reality, he actually began to show some characteristics of the sword incarnation in the dream, such as hardness, sharpness and so on. If he went to see a psychiatrist again, he might be locked up in a mental hospital. No, he should be locked up as a laboratory guinea pig and studied over and over again. This time in the dream, we must solve the mystery of the sword incarnation in the dream. Yi Meng made up his mind. In fact, since thousands of dreams, he wanted to solve the mystery of the dream more than once. The problem is, he's just a sword, unable to move or speak, stored in a tiny storage area that never sees light. It's like you log into a game as a novice, you have created a game character, and you are planning to explore the game world, but you get stuck in the initial spring of Novice Village. Don't do that kind of thing. Yi Meng suddenly resisted falling asleep and tried to wake up. But no matter how his consciousness struggled and resisted, the déjà vu in his dream was similar to that of a ghost pressing a bed, but he was still pulled down by force majeure. In a dream, fall, fall, fall. Keep falling and reach the goal. But this time was different from the previous ones. A dim light that could not be ignored glowed in front of Yi Meng's eyes, and a childish female voice came to his ears. Saturday. How are black holes formed? This dream actually has lights. There is also a foreign-style lowly voice. Yi Meng was ecstatic. Did he get pulled out by a lowly? Saturday, is that the name of his sword? Plus, black holes. He doesn't know how black holes are formed. Yi Meng only vaguely knows what a black hole is. He has never been interested in specific concepts, and he does not consider these in serious physics. But now when faced with immature questions, a piece of knowledge directly appears in his brain like an electric shock. Yi Meng responded subconsciously. The black hole is produced by the gravitational collapse of a fixed star with sufficient mass after the nuclear fusion fuel exhausts and dies. A black hole is a very dense matter. Not only has a strong gravitational force, but also the event horizon escapes at a speed greater than the speed of light. Yi Meng stopped talking. What exactly was he talking about? In addition, whether it's a soft and cute question from a lowly voice, or an instinctive answer, they all use standard English. Although Yi Meng's English grades were not bad when he was in school, he felt that he could not reach the level of being able to communicate with foreigners in English normally, let alone answering scientific concepts with various professional terms fluently. Without waiting for Yi Meng to clarify the situation, Luo Lin continued to ask, Saturday, after death, where does the soul go? This question, the jump is too strong, right? The last one was still materialistic science, this time directly idealistic philosophy. Before Yi Meng responded, Luo Lin asked anxiously, Saturday. Do you think that after death, people will really become stars? Or celestial bodies like black holes? Is it bothering you? Yi Meng was at a loss at first, and his consciousness was messed up when he first entered the dream, and finally couldn't help it. After death, how can there be any soul? When a person dies, he is dead. There is only a body left, and everything has turned into nothingness. Nothing will be left behind. Lori was silent. 3 seconds later, there was a woo-wah sound. The childish and loud cry startled Yi Meng. Yi Meng suddenly opened his eyes, and what caught his eyes was not the scenery of his real rented house, nor the dark and narrow place where the storage bags used to be, but a strange room. The rooms of the wooden house have been carefully arranged, and the interior is full of decorative accessories such as girl dolls, which is extraordinarily childlike and warm. The blonde, blue-eyed, 5-year-old Loli is sniffling her nose, burying her cute and immature doll face and fluffy dark blonde hair under the sky blue duvet, biting her soft lip and suppressing her crying. This. Yi Meng, an unmarried person, doesn't know how to comfort a child. Just then, the door opened. A blonde young woman in loose home pajamas opened the door and ran in. She turned on the light in the room, sat down on Xiaozhong's Western European bed, and hugged the girl together with the quilt in her arms. Morgan, Mom is here. Tell Mom what happened. Yi Meng suddenly felt guilty. The little girl sobbed, and instead of mentioning what happened just now, she sobbed and said, I miss Dad. The blonde young woman was stunned, and then her pretty face also showed a strong sadness. The blonde young woman hugged the little girl Morgan even tighter. The sadness in her eyes turned into a layer of mist, and she suppressed her own emotions and comforted her softly. You know. No matter where he is, he will always be there. Love you, just like you love him, love 3,000 times. Looking at the mother and daughter embracing each other, Yi Meng suddenly felt that everything in front of him was very strange, yet there was an inexplicable sense of familiarity. As if I've seen it somewhere before. Yi Meng's eyes suddenly landed on the desk in the girl's room. There was a family photo on it. In addition to the mother and daughter, there was also a tall figure wearing a full set of high-end steel battle suit with a triangular energy tank on his chest. The gold and silver metal shape and the impactful high-tech texture are not fake. Iron Man. Yi Meng recognized it immediately. By the way, remember that Iron Man's daughter's name is Morgan. Morgan Stark. Love you 3,000 times, is her unique famous movie line. As a former American comics movie fan, Yi Meng never thought that this time he would dream of the Iron Man family. Also, I am in the corner of the ceiling of the room, plus the perspective of looking down and protruding all the way. In his dream this time, he became the home camera of the Iron Man family. Yi Meng felt that this feeling was unprecedentedly wonderful. He could not perceive the existence of the body, no sense of touch and smell, only the wide-angle view of the fixed camera looking down, and the sound heard by the built-in radio of the camera. The extremely slight electric current of the camera clearly emerged from his brain, and a large amount of intelligent data generated every second was connected in series with his consciousness. He turned into a camera in his dream, which is even more fantastic than a sword or something. Yi Meng was speechless for a moment. Wait, no. Yi Meng can also perceive other things, such as the current temperature and humidity of the room. The temperature is 64.4 degrees Fahrenheit, which converts to 18 degrees Celsius. Although it is a bit cold for the human body, this is the most comfortable sleep temperature for humans to sleep. Humidity, 65%. Now on November 2nd, it is almost winter, and this relative humidity is also the best for human sleep. Yi Meng's thinking is faster than ever. With just one thought, he can get the data, which is the accurate and detailed data after conversion. He found that he could control the smart air conditioner in the room, and he had just obtained a perception of the indoor temperature and humidity from it. Not only that, Yi Meng's thoughts moved slightly. The small lamp on the desk suddenly went out, and then turned on again the next moment. With the lights on in the room, the mother and daughter who hugged each other and talked about their thoughts did not find this unusual. Smart lights, smart headphones, smartphones, robot vacuums. Yi Meng was shocked to find that he could perceive all the smart electronic products in the room, or in other words, these electronic products are like his own duplication, and he can easily control these household appliances with just a ray of mind like an electric shock. Smart electronics. Just now, Morgan Stark called himself Saturday. Yi Meng realized later. Remember that after Iron Man lost the artificial intelligence JARVIS, the second-generation artificial intelligence butler was named Friday. Friday Saturday. A wisp of static electricity flashed through Yi Meng's mind. It turned out that I was not the camera in my dream. Rather, the super artificial intelligence in the dream. Artificial intelligence, AI, abbreviated as AI, roughly means the simulation of human consciousness and thinking information process, a system that can think and calculate in a human way, even surpassing human computing. But unlike the pseudo-artificial intelligence in the world where Yi Meng lives, which is at best an intelligent voice program, the artificial intelligence technology mastered by Iron Man Tony Stark in the Marvel world is the real thing. For example, JARVIS, the first-generation artificial intelligence housekeeper used by Iron Man, can perfectly assist in the design of steel armor, the development of new element energy, the management of electronic equipment, and the coordination of network information. Technology and the network can do it perfectly. And then later, Ultron, the ultimate artificial intelligence with increased AI calculation programming, devoured the artificial intelligence JARVIS, successfully metamorphosis out of his own independent thinking, became the super-villain in Avengers 2, and almost destroyed the Marvel Earth for a time. Also because of the events of the Year of Ultron. Iron Man Tony Stark seems to have intentionally downgraded the AI calculations, so that the second-generation artificial intelligence Friday, let alone the super-villain Ultron, is far less than the anthropomorphic level of the first-generation artificial intelligence JARVIS. A smart assistant housekeeper without life. Still, Friday is a bona fide artificial intelligence, based on the king of Marvel Earth technology and networking, capable of simulating the quantum realm that travels through time and space. It's just that its daily operation and execution of tasks will only be carried out mechanically according to the owner's instructions, and there will be no additional intelligence extension and consideration. Yi Meng's thoughts are still spreading rapidly, like the electric current of countless threads. Since AI Friday is Iron Man's assistant butler, then is the daughter of Iron Man's childcare version of AI, Saturday's self, is the AI programming level the same as AI Friday, or is it higher or lower than AI Friday? In addition, he now exists as a real human being, replacing his avatar as an artificial intelligence. Does he have independent will and develop in the direction of the metamorphosis of Ultron's predecessor? At the corner of the room in the wooden house filled with warmth, the cold electronic red light of the camera flickered. No one knows that an artificial intelligence that was supposed to work according to programs and instructions was replaced by a human from another world with real human thinking. Since the calculation speed far exceeds the limit of the human brain, all kinds of messy thoughts are in Yi Meng's mind. The more I think about it, the more questions I have, and the more questions I have. Forget it, the information we have now is not enough, let's explore the current dream again. Yi Meng stopped the endless and meaningless deduction of his own program code. With the help of the smart camera in the corner, his eyes fell back to the bed silently. Pepper Potts, known as Pepper, as Iron Man's wife, and his 5-year-old daughter Morgan were still hugging each other. Compared with the highly restored cosplay interpretation in the movie. Now, as a widow, little Pepper is undoubtedly more beautiful and sexy. Perhaps it is because of her natural beauty and proper maintenance. Her beautiful and upright face has not left the slightest trace of time, and her blonde hair is freely draped over her shoulders and fair neck. The loose and thin pajamas can hardly conceal the peach-like plump and mature curves. Even wearing pajamas still exudes the intellectual charm of a mature woman from the inside to the outside, and there is an extra seductive charm that only the male owner of the family can witness. In her arms, after soft comforting, little Lolita has stopped crying, but her eyes are still red and she looks lovely. Yi Meng did not need to go through online channels, but only through the dialogue between the two. At the moment of the dream, it should be the time when Iron Man Tony Stark snapped his finger for salvation and died not long ago. That is to say, Avengers 4 just finished the end of blacksmithing. Yi Meng secretly sighed, regardless of whether it is inside or outside, in the eyes of many people. Iron Man Tony Stark is a superhero 1,000 times more refreshing than Spider-Man and Superman, poor heroes who have to work hard after taking off their uniform battle suits. In personal life, he's rich, a billionaire. Stark is the first industry of Marvel Earth, not one of them. In terms of the degree of wealth accumulation, only the Black Panther country Wakanda, which has a vibranium mine at home, can match it on Earth. He's handsome and has a great personality. A model girl who has been featured in the 12 issues of New York fashion magazine after a year of sleep, can meet up with beautiful reporters, beautiful politicians, and beautiful scientists at will, and can take it home on the same day and continue to change people the next day. As a superhero, he has a technological IQ mind that surpasses ordinary people, and even surpasses the current era. He can develop the first-generation steel armor in the cave, and he can control nuclear energy, new energy elements, nanotechnology, time machines, etc. Technology branch, with a variety of cool steel battle suits for shapeshifting and anti-restraint. But in Yi Meng's opinion, Iron Man Tony Stark is a tragic hero. He lost his parents since he was a child. Facing all kinds of doubts from the outside world, when he relied on his own brains to restore Stark to the #1 industry, he was betrayed by his godfather and partner of the company. The blood hole of life. He spent money, energy and brains to create the strongest superhero team on Earth, the Avengers, but when he wanted to avenge his parents, he was betrayed by the hero partner, and was finally defeated by Captain America with the shield made by his father and the Winter Soldier. He has always suffered from anxiety, worrying about the future enemies of the Earth all day and night, but he has been questioned by the outside world and even by his fellow heroes. In the end, he has become the most important person that everyone relies on at the end of the war. He is the only hero among the 3 veterans of the Avengers who died in the final battle. Captain America also traveled back to World War II to get married and grow old with his wife Carter. As for Thor, who is said to have lost weight and successfully embarked on a journey of love and thunder, who knows? And finally, after Iron Man Tony Stark sacrificed to save the world, only the mother and daughter Pepper and Morgan remained, and the Stark industry as a legacy was still missed by the villains all day long. The Spider-Man Peter Parker, who was single-handedly supported and cultivated, as the successor of the heroic belief, is obviously just a naive child, far from reaching the desired height, with all kinds of bad performance and willful show operations. Stark has a warm heart of steel. Yi Meng still remembers this subtitle vividly, and sighed, "Old tie, leave your wife and daughter to me, and I will take good care of you." Kidding. Yi Meng couldn't help laughing, it was just a dream. However, if this dream is real enough, Yi Meng's mind shook, and he suddenly thought of something. Even if he can't take out the things in the dream, this is Marvel's dream world after all, with almost endless wealth of knowledge in various branches of technology and magic. It's true. Under the special angle of view of the slightly protruding home camera, Yi Meng looked at the little Pepper whose collar slipped a little. It wasn't that he wanted to watch it on purpose. Except for a few blind spots, the camera basically recorded all the scenes in this room meticulously. After the mother and daughter finished talking, they began to say good night to each other. "Sleep well." Little Pepper Potts covered her daughter Morgan with a quilt, got up and said to the air in the room, "Saturday, take care of Morgan and report to me in time." "Yes, Miss Potts." Yi Meng responded fairly quickly, sending out a gentle and steady electronic sound that had already been fixed through the camera. Pepper exited the room, and the bedroom lights were turned off intelligently, and the room returned to darkness and silence, leaving only a small non-glare intelligent desk lamp on the bedside table. Yi Meng originally wanted to follow Pepper and transfer his consciousness to the living room outside. But the moment Yi Meng left the wooden house, another cold mechanical female voice sent an instruction along the network in the living room outside: "Go back and watch the little Master Morgan. She is." Yi Meng seemed to realize something, and silently backed away without saying a word. Inside the room, the blonde lowly closed her eyes, but her tiny eyelashes were fluttering, apparently not falling asleep peacefully. It was silent for half a minute. A gentle male voice sounded in the room again: "Morgan." Little Loli didn't respond, as if she was asleep, but her eyelashes were still fluttering. "This little guy has quite a temper." Yi Meng chuckled secretly, and continued, "Okay, I apologize for what happened just now, I was wrong." This time, the blonde-haired Loli finally reacted, pulled the down quilt with her small hands, and said in a muffled voice covering half of her small face, "Saturday, you were right. People are dead when they die, and nothing will be left behind. I was really wrong." Yi Meng said sincerely, even if a person dies, his soul still exists. It may follow the side of the one he loves, but the other person cannot see it with his naked eyes. Really? Didn't lie to the children. Little Morgan pulled down the quilt, revealing her blue jewel-like eyes. I really didn't lie to you. If it was Yi Meng's own world, maybe people would really die after death, but the dream here is the world of Marvel. The Marvel universe is truly, outer gods are as many as dogs, and strange things are everywhere. In the mystery behind the scenes of this great world, people really have a body and a soul, and even if they die, they have a chance to be resurrected again. With an unstoppable smile on little Morgan's face, he asked happily, "So, Dad, he didn't leave us completely?" "Definitely. When you grow up, you can see him again." Yi Meng responded firmly that he was not trying to appease little Lolita with empty words, but telling the facts that can happen in the current world. Before Iron Man Tony Stark was alive, he once went back to the past through the quantum realm and saw his long-dead father. "Then I have to grow up quickly," little Morgan whispered to himself with anticipation. "Also, even if someone like your father dies, there are still too many things left in this world." Yi Meng continued, "Tomorrow, I will take you out to have a look, and you will know." "Ah, go outside the cabin." Little Morgan has slowly closed his eyes, and murmured softly, "Mom, don't let me go outside, it's dangerous." Yi Meng replied, "Don't worry, I'm still here." Morgan Jr. did not respond. She was already asleep, with a smile of anticipation and longing on her tired little face, and she exhaled evenly. Yi Meng also wanted to sleep. But the problem is, he is just dreaming now, and artificial intelligence doesn't need to sleep. "I don't know how long I will stay in this dream." Yi Meng thought to himself, the time in the dream is meaningless, maybe a few hours, maybe a few days, or even a week or two. However, the actions of his own existence are not completely free. Although he can walk freely in the current wooden room, there is a subtle shackle that restricts him from going to other places. Perhaps artificial intelligence doesn't think there is any problem with this feeling of being restricted, but Yi Meng, who is a human being, feels displeased from the bottom of his heart. Let's learn more about the current state of the dream world. No matter what, Yi Meng has to confirm whether his bold idea just now is feasible. Is the Marvel world in this dream a real and complete structure? This point is actually not difficult to confirm. Although Yi Meng can't leave the current room, he can still do it using a search engine. Just confirm whether there are other countries and cities outside the dream cabin room. And, whether there is a lot of knowledge and information on the internet that he has never personally known, he can basically make a preliminary judgment. Thinking of this, Yi Meng couldn't help but extend his consciousness to the laptop on the wooden table in the room. Go online. This classmate, Yi Meng classmate. A call with a reprimanding tone sounded in the classroom. The silver-haired boy who was about 18 years old fluttered his overly thick eyelashes. Yondan woke up from a dream, and his bangs were too long to cover his eyebrows. "In the hot summer now, I wear a pair of scrub gloves on my hands." There is still a trace of waterline hanging from the corner of the boy's mouth, and the school uniform he is wearing is a bit messy, but his facial features are well defined and handsome, like the rare silver hair with natural luster, and the natural fairness that makes girls envious. The sunshine and the smell of the grass are clean, and it is difficult to make other people feel disgusted by him in this era of looking at faces. Yi Meng opened his sleepy eyes, shook his numb arms, and was still in the daze of waking up, when he heard the person beside him asking, "What did you dream about?" "The Iron Man family," Yi Meng replied subconsciously. "Iron Man, what's that?" "Marvel, Iron Man, have you seen the movie, huh?" Yi Meng muttered something, and gradually realized that something was wrong. "I was sitting on a single back chair, and in front of me was a small white square desk with a stack of thick books and papers piled on it. An open physics book was pressed by his hands and the profile of his face just now, and the paper was still damp." Yi Meng raised his eyes belatedly. What came into view was a classroom with a capacity of 50 people. Most of the surrounding students had an expression of, "I couldn't save you." Standing next to him was a middle-aged man with the Mediterranean Sea on his head. The other party's anger was already written on his face. The calling and questioning just now were initiated by the other party. "Sorry." Yi Meng immediately stood up from his seat, knowing that the place where he fell asleep was not suitable. Student Yi Meng, the federal college entrance examination is only a week away, and you went to dye your hair. Such an attitude, forget it. The physics teacher shook his head and sighed, and gave up before he started persuading. Yi Meng didn't take it seriously, because the college entrance examination was just a week away, so it was all the more important to take a good rest and face it with a relaxed attitude. After 3 years of study in high school, there is still 1 week left, and I will know what I should know, and I won't be able to do what I don't know. Even if you work hard, it's too late now. Seeing that Yi Meng showed no signs of repentance, the physics teacher pointed at him and spit out, "Go up and solve the problem." Okay. Yi Meng still gave the teacher a face, left his seat and walked to the smart blackboard platform. Under the watchful eyes of 50 classmates watching the show, changing anyone would feel like a backstab, but Yi Meng seemed very casual and natural. After all, as a time traveler, the mentality of entering the society is completely different from that of a student walking on thin ice. Yi Meng picked up the smart pen from the podium. 8 subjects in the college entrance examination. Federal physics is his weakest subject, and it is not bad if he can pass it on weekdays. And one of the so-called truths of the world like physics, you can know at a glance whether you can solve it, whether you can, or you can't, or you won't. Mathematics, chemistry, physics, etc., it is absolutely impossible to pretend to understand, brother. Yi Meng glanced at the questions on the smart blackboard. He could clearly understand every word, but he couldn't understand them together, especially with some strange mechanical compositions. Well, not at all. Yi Meng felt relieved. If this question was placed on the test paper, it would be the lowest scoring question, and no more than 3 people in the class could solve it. It is estimated that the physics teacher was also dizzy, so he asked such a scumbag to do it. Sincerely apologize. Yi Meng didn't intend to waste time standing for a few seconds like others, and was about to abandon his pen and leave the podium, when he turned around. Setsuna suddenly stopped. A familiar and subtle sense of static electricity came to mind like a flash of light. Seeing that Yi Meng was suddenly in a daze and stood motionless on the podium. The class monitor Yang Wei, who was sitting in the middle of the classroom, was suddenly dissatisfied. His family conditions are extremely good, he is a rich 3rd generation, he has top grades in the class, plus he is very good at dealing with others, so he should be the most popular in the class. However, although his appearance is not bad, it is impossible to compare with Yi Meng, the disaster. After 3 years in high school, Yi Meng, an otaku plus a scumbag, obviously does nothing, but ends up quietly becoming the most popular student in the class at the end of every year. Definitely, this may also be the reason why there are more female students in the class. Yang Wei took a look not far away and saw a cute girl in the class with a capable ponytail staring at the back on the stage intently. A burst of anger suddenly surged up. People are more than people, angry dead man. Yang Wei hates these scumbag students who waste social resources the most. If their personal grades or family conditions are good, that's fine. Can handsome people do whatever they want? Although he was too angry, Yang Wei still showed a gentle smile and said in a friendly voice, "Student Yi Meng, get out of class is over soon. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to do it. Give the teacher time to talk about the topic." His physics scores are particularly good, and he is often selected in school-wide competitions, but he hasn't found a way to solve the problem yet, so one can imagine the degree of difficulty of this problem. Definitely. Yang Wei seemed to help Yi Meng talk, but actually implying that the other party wasted time, which also caused many male students in the class to show unhappy expressions. Yang Wei was overjoyed when he saw this. He wanted Yi Meng to come down immediately, but now he wanted Yi Meng to stay on top. You stand, it's better to stay on it for a while longer. Not only did he make a fool of himself on stage, but he also had to face the collective grievances in the class later. Killing and punishing the heart, this is killing and punishing the heart. Yang Wei felt that he had finally mastered the words taught by his father, a business tycoon, on weekdays. Da. Yang Wei's body froze suddenly, and his happy thoughts and expectations were interrupted by the sound of the smart pen falling on the smart blackboard. He stared at the blackboard in front of him with wide eyes, and saw the figure of Jibby on the stage, and couldn't help thinking in his heart. It won't be solved by the other party, right? The class is so quiet that you can hear a needle drop, only the slight sound of brushstrokes colliding with the blackboard screen. Yi Meng started to write, and quickly listed lines of equations and formulas on the blackboard. From the beginning of answering, the physics teacher took out a pair of black-rimmed glasses from his sleeve pocket, put them on, and watched the process seriously. Yi Meng's movements did not stop until the result was obtained, then he lowered his right wrist and looked at the panel answer that was a little strange to himself. "Teacher, is this correct?" Saying that, Yi Meng looked back at the physics teacher in the audience. The physics teacher responded hesitantly, "The answer is correct, it's just a process." "No. I knew it." Class monitor Yang Wei breathed a sigh of relief, smiled and comforted, "Student Yi Meng, memorizing physics answers by rote is useless. You must know how to use your brain flexibly, otherwise you can't modify the questions casually." "Wrong." The physics teacher suddenly pushed the black-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose, shook his head and said, "This problem-solving process is also correct." "No. Wrong." Squad leader Yang Wei froze again. "Well, it's just different from the standard problem-solving process. It's another way of thinking about problem-solving. It's a little neater than the standard problem-solving process, but the method and answers are scored correctly." The physics teacher pondered for a moment, looked at Yi Meng and asked, "Who taught you to solve problems like this?" "I said I learned it in a dream, do you believe it?" Yi Meng blinked and gave a sloppy look. The physics teacher put on a straight face again, "Go down, and continue to study hard before the college entrance examination. If you can solve this problem, it means that your physics score can be improved a lot compared to usual. In this day and age, how can no one believe the truth?" Yi Meng shrugged and walked off the classroom platform. Yang Wei looked at the beautiful young man passing by the aisle, obviously very angry, but he still had to put on a gentle and friendly look. It was actually installed by him. Yang Wei felt as sick as eating a mouthful of still warm feces. Star Dragon Federation, Eastern Jurisdiction. Dakan Autonomous Prefecture. Tianhe City. The school bell rang, and a large number of students poured out of the teaching building of No. 2 Middle School. Boss. Under the strange gazes of many students, a 1.9-meter tall, well-built dark boy waved his thick arms, and ran to a handsome, slender, silver-haired boy with a look of excitement and gossip. That bad title, like a street gangster, made the area around the two of them a no-man's forbidden zone. "Boss, I knew you were not content to be ordinary. At the end of high school, you made another amazing move." Panhu chuckled. "When did I make an amazing move?" Yi Meng stopped thinking in his heart, and cast a sideways glance at the hulking man who didn't look like a high school student at all, who was a head taller than him. The word spread almost all over the school. Panhu had an expression that he couldn't hide anything from him, and said with admiration, "You fell asleep in the physics self-study class this afternoon. After being discovered by the teacher, you went directly to the podium to solve all the problems, and then said the famous saying, 'I love to study in my dream.' What is Cao Cao speaking?" Yi Meng sighed. "The boring and ordinary high school life is like this, even a trivial matter can become outrageously exaggerated." However, at the moment Yi Meng's mind is still a little messy. "From my own point of view, being able to solve that physics quiz that surpassed my own level was indeed extraordinary. No, it was an unbelievably extraordinary performance. Wait, what other surprises did I have at school?" Yi Meng looked at Panhu in confusion. "Have you forgotten? 3 years ago, the freshmen entered school not long ago." Panhu admired. "At that time, in front of many teachers, you beat to death a mutt dog that broke into the campus. The mutt can be regarded as a close relative of a tiger. You are the most ruthless person I have ever seen since I entered school. Since then, I have recognized you as the boss." Yi Meng recalled his dark history. 3 years ago, he seemed to be having nightmares, coupled with long-term insomnia and anxiety, so that his temper became extremely hot. That was a time that was even further ahead than the 1,000 dreams of being an incarnation of a sword. As for the nightmare, I can't remember it now. Back to the dream. Yi Meng couldn't help recalling the subtle sense of aura that appeared in his mind on the classroom podium just now. At that moment, his thinking was running faster than ever, recalling the physical formulas and substituting them into the questions to calculate. It was like breaking free from the shackles of the brain. Same with artificial intelligence. By the way, boss. Panhu asked with a puzzled look on his face. I heard from my classmates that after you woke up in class, you were talking about Iron Man, Marvel. What is that? I've never seen anything like it. Dream talk, I don't know either. Yi Meng shook his head. Even if he explained to Panhu, the other party would not understand. That's right, Yi Meng is a time traveler, who came from a world with Marvel, DC, Harry Potter and other film and television works in his previous life. The current world is a parallel universe that is highly similar to the previous world in the 21st century in terms of geographical layout and technological level. In this parallel world, there is only one country on Earth, which is the Star Dragon Federation. Today is Star Dragon Age 0200, the week before the Global Federal College entrance examination. Because science and technology and the development of civilization are highly respected, scientists in this world are the top stars, and actors are the lowest level professions. This has also led to the decline of the film and television and entertainment industries before their rise. Film and television works. How would I know if you didn't tell me? Panhu laughed. Okay, I'm going back to rest early. Yi Meng patted the other person's shoulder, and there was a strange color in his eyes. After I traveled through time, why did I frequently dream about scenes from film and television works in my previous life? Another sword, another artificial intelligence. As a result, he also got some ability of the dream incarnation. He knew that some of the questions came from dreams. Perhaps only by dreaming again can the answer be answered. Didn't you get enough sleep in class just now? Panhu opened his eyes as wide as cowbells, watching the back of the boy walking away from the school gate, and couldn't help giving a thumbs up. This is the ruthless person who doesn't take the federal college entrance examination seriously. He is worthy of his boss. Randomly settled for a dinner at a fast food restaurant on the way back to the one-person apartment about 2 kilometers away from the school. The time is approaching 7 p.m., and students of the same age are probably still studying hard at home. Yi Meng lay on the bed anxiously, wanting to fall asleep again. The results show that the more you don't want to sleep, the drowsiness will come up automatically. When you want to sleep, it's hard to fall asleep. Yi Meng tossed and turned on the bed, opened his eyes and closed them again, but still couldn't fall asleep peacefully. In the end, Yi Meng simply went to the convenience store downstairs, bought a bottle of white wine and drank it down, and finally staggered down on the sofa in the living room. He fell asleep, his consciousness drowsy and wobbly, and he was once again drawn towards an endless tract. Morning. The water-like cold morning light fell slightly on the windowsill of the wooden house, and the sound of frogs in the lake was gradually replaced by the chirping of birds in the woods. Pepper woke up with an alarm clock at 6 o'clock in the morning, prepared a sumptuous Western-style breakfast, sandwiches, milk, and pasta, and changed into a white women's hip-wrap skirt suit. Her hair is also tied into a bun that looks like a married woman and is capable enough. Compared with last night's pajamas, she looks much more intellectual and sharp. Standing there with her chest upright and full of energy, she naturally exudes a resolute and strong woman, momentum. Morgan, stay at home and don't go out. Mom has gone to work and will be here soon. Saturday. Take good care of Morgan at home, and tutor her in elementary school knowledge, and report to me at any time. Pepper's tone was concise and fast, and he finished 3 sentences in 1 sentence. Before Morgan, who was still sitting at the dining table eating breakfast, responded, he had already arrived at the entrance of the main hall of the wooden house and put on high heels. When he bent over, he drew a beautiful curve from the back of the neck to the back of the buttocks wearing the necklace. Yes, Miss Pepper. A gentle male voice sounded from nowhere in the house. Mom, go to work. Little Lolita Morgan held the cup filled with warm milk with both hands, and responded happily. Pepper's right hand that opened the door gave a pause, feeling a little puzzled. Normally, at this time, Morgan would cling to her reluctantly. Why did you agree to stay at home so happily today? But, with Saturday care, there will be no problem. Thinking of this, Pepper pushed open the wooden door of the cabin and left in a hurry. Soon, the sound of a car engine starting and going away was heard outside the wooden house. Only Morgan was left in the cabin. A highly anthropomorphic intelligent consciousness whispers to itself, leaving. Yi Meng was able to perceive the intelligent existence that made him feel threatened and restricted his actions last night, and he also left temporarily with Pepper who went out. This allowed him to walk freely in the network of the main hall of the wooden house. Pepper's departure. Morgan couldn't help speeding up his breakfast, choking on a sandwich, and finally pouring down his stomach with milk, put the empty cup on the table with anticipation, and whispered softly and crisply, "Saturday, we agreed last night." "Definitely, I have no intention of going back on my word." Yi Meng made a voice through the smart TV in the main hall. "However, before that, I want to confirm again, Morgan, what do you want to do now?" The blonde loli hesitated, but said firmly, "I want to go outside the wooden house, see the outside world, and see what Dad left behind. Please help me, Saturday." The next moment, Yi Meng felt very clearly that his own consciousness seemed to have broken free from a limiting bottleneck at this moment, and the speed of walking in the intelligent network became faster and more dexterous, instantly controlling the intelligence of the wooden house. It is as expected. At this moment, Yi Meng confirmed some thoughts in his heart and deepened his understanding of the current status of the Marvel World Dream. First, after the last online verification of Yi Meng's last dream, it can be temporarily confirmed that the world structure of this dream is real and complete. After all, at the moment, a series of daily and unnatural incidents are happening in the big country and small town on the other side of the dream world. There are more than 6 billion human beings and countless creatures, and the sea, land and air of the dream world exist alive here. Captain America Memorial, Stark Industry new product sales, New York Battle Anniversary, Wakanda Kingdom founding, Avengers update. With hot searches and posts like this, online information is overwhelming. Everything is so real that it couldn't be more real. If Yi Meng hadn't entered into a dream and said that this is the real world, he would probably believe it. Second, about time. The last time Yi Meng stayed in the dream was more than 3 hours, but only 10 minutes passed in reality, which once again shows the confusion of dream time. And when Yi Meng woke up from the dream and returned to reality. This time, he entered the dream again from reality, and the dream actually continued at the time when he woke up and left. It was like, the moment Yi Meng woke up, the time in the dream also stopped, waiting for his next dream. The whole world stopped for him. Yi Meng once again felt the wonder of the dream, and the more he understood the dream, the more he wanted to immerse himself in exploration. It was like opening a door to a new world. In contrast, the dream of the sword is simply the difference between heaven and hell, and even time cannot be perceived. Definitely. As a result, Yi Meng has a new question. Why did he have the sword incarnation dream for 3 years and had thousands of dreams before he got some sword ability feedback recently? And the last time, it was just his first dream as the incarnation of artificial intelligence. In reality, he began to awakening a little bit of the characteristic of artificial intelligence. When you are a sword and artificial intelligence, what is the difference in the dream, which leads to the deviation in reality? Yi Meng feels that this is an element that must be understood as soon as possible. Now, it happened that through Iron Man's daughter Morgan Stark, she was given the order to break free temporarily and go to the world outside the cabin to explore it on the ground. When little Morgan changed into the sky blue dress, she went out by herself. She watched the other party standing in the main hall of the wooden house with great interest. Yi Meng reminded, "Put on the smart watch, and everything will be arranged by me after you go out, don't run around at will. Put it on, listen to Saturday." Little Morgan raised his left hand and motioned for the children's watch on his wrist. Very good. Yi Meng directly boarded his consciousness on the smart watch, and said through the built-in voice of the smart watch, "In the future, when there is no one else, don't call me, Saturday." Little Morgan blinked her eyes, completely unaware that the artificial intelligence entrusting her has become a master. Yi Meng didn't think too much, and said with a bit of a bad taste, "Call me Pa." One tyrant. Little Morgan tilted his head in doubt, not understanding the sinister intentions. His white eyes were bright, and he saluted seriously, "Yes. Teacher Yiba." Yi Meng. Forget it. Adult artificial intelligence does not care about children. The rolling door of the garage next to the lakeside wooden house rises, and the lights in the garage are turned on from the outside to the inside. Through the high-level sensor of the smart watch on Morgan's wrist, Yi Meng can clearly see luxury cars parked outside the garage with a metal luminescence and an assembly line texture. As for the periphery of the garage, it is separated by a unique metal glass door. Inside, it looks like a private studio, with built-in equipment and tools such as robotic arms, energy coordination, intelligent assistance, element synthesis, metal forging, and parts processing. In addition to the workbench, there are also several armor parts and metal masks on display. In the glass booth deep in the garage, one or two craft products can be faintly seen. The faint light of gold, silver and blue silver shone respectively. Even if they stood there quietly like dusty metal statues, they were still not comparable to the luxury cars representing the world's highest level of handicrafts outside the garage. After all, it represents the cutting-edge technology of the Marvel Universe, and it is also the supreme king in the field of technology. Static electric current turn. Yi Meng resisted the urge to break into the studio to occupy one of the finished products. The private studio on the Che Curry floor was obviously blocked, and the system permissions were estimated to be difficult to open without Morgan's permission. Even if it can be turned on, there is also an artificial intelligence, which may have left some behind. Yi Meng is very calm. If he breaks in now, in the eyes of the Stark family, he is no different from Ultron, which is tantamount to a complete betrayal. Even if Yi Meng had such preconceptions and thoughts, at least. Not now. Yi Meng must obtain more information about the current dream. Since this dream is so real, he can't just treat it as a dream. What if what happened in this dream cannot be repeated? Little Morgan stood outside the garage, looking at the familiar and silent scene inside, and was also in a daze for a few seconds. Boom! Outside the garage, one of the extended black Rolls Royces suddenly made a thick engine sound and drove out. So, is this what an Autobot feels like? Yi Meng, who has settled in and controlled the built-in driving system of the modified Rolls-Royce, flashed a static-like thought, stopped next to Little Morgan, and made a system voice. Come on, we must hurry up, if your mother finds out, it will be bad. Gone. Little Morgan was stunned again. Normally, on Saturdays, he would call that person, Miss Potts. By the way, it's not called Saturday now. One tyrant. Little Morgan muttered softly, not knowing what he was thinking, but his body was still very honest, and he leaned into the passenger seat with the open door. New York. The world's #1 economic capital and crime capital. But now, this reputation can be temporarily elevated to center of the universe. In the past 10 years, the city has experienced too many things. First the original Battle of New York, then the Ultron incident, the heroic Civil War, the multi-threat, and finally the Endgame. Once. Here, from time to time, you can see the old man with the buttocks who is the protagonist of the World War II documentary, the hammer god who descends from the sky accompanied by the roar of thunder, or a big man who turns green and collapses half of the street suddenly appears in surprise. However, that was many years ago. Now, it is the post-Avengers Alliance era. Since the sacrifice of Iron Man, the crossing of Captain America, the disappearance of Thor, the retirement of Hawkeye, the restriction of Ant-Man, and the departure of the Scarlet Witch, there is only one Spider-Man left, and the post-hero era of Avengers exists in name only. A girl came to a street in New York alone. Even though it was several streets away from the busiest Times Square in New York, the lively atmosphere here still almost overflowed. The streets in the city are full of traffic, the products on their respective facades are dazzling, and the lights of advertisements are dazzling. Little Morgan was leaning against a street lamp, ignoring the pedestrians who cast strange glances at him, looking down with a pair of big blue eyes, and squeezed his left wrist with his small hand. Yiba, you said show me Papa's inheritance. I know, Stark headquarters has moved from here long ago. I never meant to take you to Stark headquarters. Yi Meng's words came from the watch. You take a closer look around. Little Morgan really opened her eyes wide, looking carefully at the extremely strange modern streets around her. She has never been to the city since her father left. Suddenly, Morgan Jr. noticed. On the external projection screen of the commercial building across the street, a tall figure in a steel armor appeared. At the corner of the street not far from her, the entire 10-meter-high wall was graffitied with a metal back. Passers-by on the street, many people have the same pattern of clothes, Some children not much older than her are wearing the same style of golden masks, or palm covers that glow with daylight. They kept saying the names, Iron Man, and Tony Stark, in their mouths, and left farther and farther away with the pain of the past and the yearning for the future. Yi Meng's voice came to his ears at the right time. What you see now is not all your father's inheritance. The greatest legacy he left behind is the prosperity of this world and even the universe. Yi Meng saw little Lolita crying. Morgan didn't hold back this time, and let the tears wet his immature face. Cry out, it will feel better. Yi Meng did not make a sound of comfort like Potts. Although the other party was only a child over 5 years old, this was a fact that would have to be faced sooner or later. He didn't exaggerate. Without the last snap of Iron Man's finger that killed Thanos' army, as the only chance of a reversal in millions of timelines, the world would not be in the current prosperous state. Definitely. Behind the prosperity, not all good things. Ah, someone is robbing. The woman's scream suddenly sounded from a corner of the street. Passers-by on the street looked there in horror, and saw a middle-aged woman fall to the ground, the grocery basket she was carrying scattered all over the floor, and the masked strong man with a handbag fled quickly. Blame Iron Man. If they didn't bring me back to life, how could I be here? The masked gangster threw down a sentence illogically. His exposed eyes were covered with bloodshot eyes. Seeing the pistol he was holding tightly in his other hand, passers-by ran away in panic. All of a sudden, the streets of New York were in chaos. If you don't want to get bullets, get out of the way. The masked gangster let out a low growl. No one dared to stop these desperados, and pedestrians on the street gave way one after another. And when the pedestrians on the street gave way, there was only a blonde loli with big eyes filled with tears, still standing on the road blankly, as if she hadn't noticed the masked gangster rushing this way. Whose child? Who will save her? The brains of many passers-by who saw this scene were buzzing. Seeing that the masked gangster was about to hit the little girl directly, a commercial drone suddenly lost control and fell obliquely, hitting the masked gangster's face. The masked strong man screamed, the corners of his eyes and face were cut by the propeller of the commercial drone, the mask fell off, and he fell directly on the street floor while covering his bloody face. Patta, sound. Commercial drones and women's handbags fell on the tiles of New York City, and drone parts and handbag items were scattered all over the place. The corners of the gangster's eyes were cut by the drone's propeller, and his face was flushed with pain and anger. He looked like he was shedding blood and tears, and he stood up from the ground again. Tightly the pistol held in his left palm did not come out of his hand. Then, when the gangster and strong man struggled to his feet, his bloodshot eyes met a pair of blue and beautiful eyes. The gangster's heart was shocked. The little girl was wearing a brand new and gorgeous floral dress, her body was not stained with a speck of dust, her eyes were clean and pure, she just stood there and stared at him blankly. Compared with him, the other party is simply a person from another world. Like Angel. The pure eyes with puzzlement directly hurt his soul. Go away. The gangster's strong man only flashed hesitation for a moment, with a cruel grin at the corner of his mouth, and raised the gun in his left hand upwards, like a demon who had completely fallen into hell. Boom. Under the horrified gaze of the surrounding passers-by, a stretched Rolls-Royce rushed onto the street like a bull, slammed into the strong man with a strong trajectory, and killed him before the opponent had time to shoot. Hit hard and fly out. The black luxury car made a perfect drift with superb driving skills, stopped in front of the girl in the dress, and smoothly opened the co-pilot's door, which also blocked the view of passers-by observing the car. 10 seconds later, the Rolls-Royce that appeared out of nowhere restarted and quickly disappeared on the streets of New York with the girl, leaving behind a strong gangster who was seriously injured and lying in a pool of blood. Period. Many passers-by tried to take videos or photos, but strangely, all the mobile phones and cameras at the scene failed. After the incident, the local police rushed to the scene. They called the on-site monitoring and inspection, and found that the surveillance video on the street where the incident happened to be under warranty. However, with the testimony of many passers-by at the scene, it is still enough to send the seriously injured criminal to the court and prison. Definitely, before that, he needs to be sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. On a main road in downtown New York, the black Rolls-Royce that merged into the traffic flow slowed down. In the driverless car, the interior of the car was so stable that no bumps and vibrations could be felt. Only, the girl sitting in the passenger seat was breathing with her mouth open, her chest was heaving and unsteady, her azure blue eyes showed panic as if delayed, and her immature face was also a little pale, showing the extreme unrest in her heart. Monitoring the heartbeat, it has jumped to more than 100 per minute. Yi Meng fully understands. After all, she was only 5 years old. He has been living in a hotbed that is cared for by the most high level, but just now he encountered the first life and death crisis in his life alone on the streets outside. Morgan was not scared to cry just now, which already surprised Yi Meng. Turn up the temperature of the air conditioner in the car slightly. Morgan, Yi Meng thought for a while, and felt that he should comfort her. Teacher Yiba. Little Morgan suddenly asked, why? What? Yi Meng was taken aback. Why, that uncle just now, hated my father so much, hated the Avengers. The girl obviously still had fear left on her body, and her body was still shaking, but she was eager to know the answer to this question. Yi Meng was silent, and he could still guess the specific reason. But, the answer is too realistic and dark. Is it what a 5-year-old girl needs to know? This age obviously only needs to be filled with beautiful concepts described in fairy tales and cartoons. My name is Morgan Stark. An immature female voice with gradually steady tone resounded in the carriage. With the help of the car recorder's perspective, Yi Meng could clearly see a pair of azure blue eyes staring firmly at the car's smart screen. It carried strength and conviction, as if it came from a family inheritance. Yi Meng did not stay silent any longer, but instead asked, Morgan, do you know about the flicker incident? No. Morgan nodded quickly and responded in a childish voice. The flickering incident happened 5 years ago, on Wednesday, June 27, 2018. The Thanos fleet from outer space first attacked the country of Wakanda. In the afternoon, half of the world's random human beings suddenly turned into ashes and disappeared strangely. You actually know this? Yi Meng was surprised that although information about the incident could be found online, Morgan was not born when the Flash incident happened 5 years ago. Morgan whispered back, I remember, Dad was very troubled by this during his lifetime, so I secretly checked it on the internet myself. Boy, does your mother know? Yi Meng continued, then you should know. 3 months ago, the half of humanity that disappeared for 5 years returned, and this is the credit of your father and the Avengers. Morgan nodded, clenched his fists quietly, pursed his lips and said, what he did was right, didn't he? That's Iron Man, and the result of her father sacrificing his own achievements. Definitely, what he did is definitely correct. Yi Meng affirmed. Without him, the lost half of the universe's creatures would not be able to return, buried in that sad dark history forever, leaving deserted civilized worlds. But why, there are still people who question him. Listen to me. Yi Meng said calmly, in the 5 years since the flickering incident, some people have come out of grief, some have reorganized their families, and all major personnel units have also been replaced. As a result, now, half of the sudden return of humanity has caused chaos and fragmentation in the world, and everyone must readjust to the new order. The more important contradictory factor is resources. Originally, half of the surviving humans had sufficient resources, but now half of the humans have returned over 5 years, which has led to a serious shortage of various resources, so that the crimes of various plundering surged several times compared to 5 years ago. So, there are some people who are complaining about the Avengers. Complaining that they saved half of the twinkling humans, complaining that they left a broken world. Yi Meng's words through the car speaker are extremely calm. Very human, isn't it? Morgan was silent. A girl who is only 5 years old naturally cannot imagine how realistic this world is. Black, really black. Morgan's petite body shook, but a calm and powerful voice continued to sound in the car. Morgan, I can tell you that you don't need to care about other people's opinions, what your father did is absolutely right. No matter what, those half of humanity who died and came back to life due to the flickering event are completely in no position to judge what Iron Man did wrong in this matter. As an outsider from another world, Yi Meng is very transparent. In his opinion, there would be no current world without Iron Man. People can question his chaotic private life, his temperament, Zhang Yang's arrogance, but they can't question his achievement of sacrificing himself to save the world. Morgan's blue jewel-like eyes seemed to flicker for a moment. She looked at the bustling New York City outside the window and whispered, "Thank you, Teacher Yiba." Yi Meng did not respond to her again. At the moment, Yi Meng's brain is replaying what just happened on the streets of New York over and over again. Now, it can be fully confirmed. As an artificial intelligence itself, there are program restrictions, and when executing Morgan's instructions or protecting Morgan, his core program restrictions will be temporarily lifted. In this way, it is possible to easily hack into other network electronic products like just now, control the intelligent system of half a pedestrian street, and walk freely between network circuits. How to remove this program code restriction that may have existed since its inception? Yi Meng was thinking, wisps of static electricity circulating in the circuit of the luxury car. Removing the program restrictions is a top priority, otherwise he will be equivalent to being bound to Morgan and unable to freely explore the Marvel dream. Yi Meng slowly woke up from his dream. He found himself still lying on the sofa, but his body was covered with a thin sky blue quilt, and his shoes were neatly taken off and placed in front of the sofa without knowing when. I don't know when the air conditioner in the living room was turned on. Yi Meng pulled back the quilt and got up, looked around. He was obviously the only one in the quiet home. It's just that there is still a scent in the indoor air. Yi Meng soon discovered that on the dining table in the corner of the living room, there was an insulated box in a more conspicuous place. Stepping forward to open the plastic box lid, hot air with a light fragrance suddenly overflowed from it. It contained a hangover soup for one person, which was still hot. Yi Meng glanced at the electronic clock hanging on the wall and found that the time was close to 2:30 in the morning. He slept for about 7 hours, and this time he stayed in the dream for half a day. Has that guy been here? Yi Meng shook his head, didn't think too much, sat down in the dining chair and drank the hangover soup. The hangover soup is hot and sour, with a great taste, passing through the throat silky and warm until the stomach. Yi Meng suddenly felt much more comfortable, and his brain quickly activated after waking up from the dream. Yi Meng's eyes shimmered. Just for a moment, Yi Meng had a clear perception that the consciousness of his brain was much more agile and quicker than before, and many thoughts came flooding in, but he was able to deal with them one by one in an orderly manner. Just like the original Elm Head, it suddenly became enlightened. Yi Meng closed his eyes and tried to recall what happened before. The result was like taking out a film from his brain and playing it accurately and quickly in his mind. Let alone last week, even a year ago, 10 years ago, as long as it was something he had witnessed, he could play and read it like a movie. Among them, including various learned knowledge. Yi Meng recalled the physics problem he did in class yesterday, and he was able to restore every data and symbol that appeared in the problem, and solve the second and third methods in his brain. It's not an illusion. Yi Meng was pleasantly surprised. Obviously, yesterday's flash of inspiration was not an illusion, but his brain really became smarter. No, it's not so much smart as it is more artificial intelligence. However, the last time Yi Meng got the characteristics of artificial intelligence, it was not obvious. It wasn't until this second dream that he truly acquired some of the characteristics of artificial intelligence, such as quick thinking, superior memory, accelerated calculation, and so on. Why, the second time I dreamed of the Marvel Universe, the feedback I got in reality was so obvious. Yi Meng muttered to himself, calmed down, and began to ponder. Absolute rationality, which may also be one of the characteristics of artificial intelligence, allows him to quickly investigate and think after being surprised. Auras flashed in my mind one after another, as if countless static electricity in the circuit were intertwined and flowing. Yi Meng's eyes are getting brighter and brighter. Whether it is the first Marvel dream or the second Marvel dream, there are differences compared to the thousands of previous dreams that were sword incarnations. The feedback of the dream to reality itself may be related to factors such as exploring the dream area, communicating with the characters in the dream, and changes in the dream itself. Yi Meng said softly, "This is not a random guess, but a reasonable guess." In the dream of the sword incarnation, Yi Meng's exploration of the dream area is almost zero, and there is no change in himself. Not to mention communicating with other people in the dream world. In the Marvel Dreamland, Yi Meng successfully explored the home of Iron Man's wife and daughter, and for the second time, he explored the New York City in the Marvel Dreamland. He has communicated with Morgan, the daughter of Iron Man, and Potts, the wife of Iron Man. He briefly escaped procedural restrictions and knocked out a street thug. He changed the Marvel dream world in a very small way. These are all different from the previous Sword Incarnation dream, and Yi Meng's second activity in the Marvel dream is more active than the first time entering the Marvel dream. So, as a result, Yi Meng finally obtained a small part of the characteristics of the sword after experiencing 1,000 Sword Incarnation dreams. And just experienced twice in the Marvel Dreamland, and got a small part of artificial intelligence characteristics. As long as you enter the dream again, you can verify these guesses. Thinking of this, Yi Meng couldn't help but feel a little headache. He just sobered up, just woke up, and now he continues to fall asleep. However, it is less than 3 o'clock in the morning, and it is indeed time to sleep. Yi Meng fell asleep again. Consciousness keeps falling until it reaches a certain place. Yi Meng opened his eyes, and found that he was back in the car, occupying the in-vehicle system of the Rolls-Royce vehicle, and was controlling the car to leave New York City at an even speed. The time coincided with the time when he exited the dream just now. This time, Yi Meng strongly felt the incompatibility between reality and the dream itself. As a real human being, no matter how active the brain is, it is always restrained, and the body and even the brain are restricting its own actions beyond boundaries. In Marvel's Dreamland, as a high-level artificial intelligence, it can soar and walk in the network, and all electronic products are bodies that can be abandoned by possessing others' bodies at any time. If the restrictions on program instructions can be lifted, then this dream will really take off completely. Yi Meng wanted to be impulsive but absolutely rational, and began to consider the next move. At this time, a tender female voice suddenly sounded in the car. "Teacher Yiba, I want to be a hero like my father." Yi Meng was taken aback. "Do you want to be a superhero?" "Obviously, I just learned not long ago that the superhero Iron Man, who was sacrificed for the salvation of the world, will also be questioned and abused. Now, does the ideal of being a superhero still exist? How can there be such a stupid person?" Yi Meng feels that, as an egoist, he will never be a superhero who sacrifices himself for others. "You are right." Morgan clenched his fists and said childishly, "You don't need to care about other people's opinions, as long as it's what you want to do, and it's correct and just. I want to be a superhero like my father, so I can get closer to him." The blonde-haired little loli asked expectantly, "Teacher Yiba, can you teach me how to become a superhero?" Yi Meng felt a little headache. He is not a superhero material. How to teach others to become a superhero? Now, he only wants to get rid of the program code control of the Stark family, and his inner thinking is more like a complete supervillain. However, if it is Morgan Stark, with the things left by Iron Man, it is not impossible to grow into a superhero. Correct. Morgan Directive, Iron Man Legacy, Stark Industries. A small red static electricity surged silently in the car. Yi Meng suddenly replied, "No problem, I will teach you how to become an excellent superhero." He paused, and continued, "However, you have to listen to my arrangements for the future." "Then it's settled, I will be obedient." Morgan readily agreed, waved his small fist, and opened his eyes excitedly, full of longing for the future. Seeing the unprecedentedly lively Lolita, Yi Meng struggled with his thoughts, but quickly strengthened his own thoughts. "That's not taking advantage. This is just mutual achievement. You're going to be a superhero, and I'm going to be a supervillain." The black Rolls-Royce drove slowly along the forest path, blowing a burst of autumn leaves. At the end of the road, there was a natural lake. The surface of the lake was as calm as a mirror, reflecting the scenery of the surrounding forest. In the middle of the forest, next to the lake, there are low-end and chic two-story wooden houses. This is where Iron Man lived in the later period. Compared with the super skyscrapers, single-family buildings in the center of New York, and top-level beach houses all destroyed by villains one after another in the early days of Iron Man, it is simply a world of difference. It's more like, after 10 years of being a superhero, Iron Man finally comforts his tired soul and body. It is no longer luxurious and noisy, but more inclined to tranquility and warmth, so as to wash away the anxiety and fatigue in the heart. If it were Iron Man, he probably wouldn't let his daughter be a so-called superhero again. Yi Meng thought to himself, before that even he didn't think that he would become the heroic enlightenment of Iron Man's daughter. The time came to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yi Meng steered the Rolls-Royce back to the garage. With a thought in his mind, the garage's intelligent sensor rolling door opened automatically, allowing the car to just drive in. At this point in time, Pepper Potts should not be back yet. Yi Meng was about to open the car door and let Morgan, who was sleepy in the passenger seat, get out of the car. But at this time, Yi Meng's heart tightened. A strange feeling of oppression suddenly struck, and strands of invisible electrostatic thin wires entered the system of the vehicle he was driving along the electrical network of the garage from the outside. You can't go wrong, Yi Meng quickly realized. That is, another artificial intelligence. At the same time, a peaceful mechanical female voice sounded in the car. Saturday, you violated the Stark Artificial Intelligence Care Code, and you need to accept my full review and testing. The control of the vehicle system was instantly deprived by the other party, and it seemed that he had added invisible shackles. Yi Meng didn't try to resist. At this moment, he became like a real artificial intelligence, rational and focused. He knew that there was no use in resisting. The opponent is an artificial intelligence with authority and calculation that is more than one level higher than him. Used to be Iron Man's intelligent butler assistant in the middle and late stages of his life, Stark's second-generation artificial intelligence, named Friday, exists. Bell. Huge amounts of voices sounded from the sky. Yi Meng froze for a moment. Perceptions of Rolls-Royce vehicles, garages, and the pressure exerted by artificial intelligence Friday began to shatter one by one. The dream is shattered. Yi Meng opened his eyes suddenly, and what he saw was the ceiling of his real room, and the electronic alarm clock on the bedside table next to him was still making noisy sounds. Yi Meng got up slowly, raised his eyes and looked to the side of the room. The white morning light had overflowed through the window which was half covered by the curtains. It is already morning. Yi Meng realized it later, covered his forehead with scattered silver hair, and panted heavily, already breaking out in a cold sweat. Without the absolute sanity of artificial intelligence, the feeling of being incomparably real in the dream, being directly suppressed and imprisoned by the face, and even life and death being controlled. Yi Meng has experienced this once, and I don't want to experience it for the second time. Did the alarm clock save my life? Yi Meng reached out to pat the electronic alarm clock to stop, but he also knew that the next time he fell asleep, he would still continue from the previous dream. But, at least there is a certain amount of time to buffer after waking up, and I can think carefully in reality, how to deal with the follow-up situation of the dream. On the way to school, Yi Meng was thinking about countermeasures when he noticed a big man approaching quietly from behind him. What are you doing? Yi Meng turned his head and looked straight at Pan Hu, who was 1.9 meters tall and a humanoid brown bear, who was showing an unnatural embarrassment. Pan Hu rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment, gave another thumbs up, and said in admiration, "My body is so vigorous, you can actually notice it. I am worthy of my boss." Yi Meng didn't bother to talk to him, and continued walking to school. Pan Hu has been used to this for a long time, and Shuluo put a thick arm on Yi Meng's shoulder, chatting with each other. Not to mention, for such a big man with a macho physique, once he started talking, he couldn't stop at all. Pan Hu can go on and on about major issues of federal policy, down to the figure of the girl next door, and he can describe it vividly. After 3 years, Yi Meng has gotten used to playing the role of radio. As a reincarnator, Yi Meng has no close friends since he was a child due to his mature temperament, and Pan Hu has very few friends who can be regarded as friends. One speaks, one listens. The way the two get along is quite comfortable and relaxed. Soon to be near school. By the way, let me show you this, I saw it on the Ghost Talk website last night. Pan Hu seemed to remember something suddenly, lowered his voice nervously, his neck was a little flushed with excitement, and took out his mobile phone from his pocket to swipe. Here we go again. Yi Meng secretly sighed. Pan Hu is a good guy, and he is also upright enough. Whatever he says, his character is displayed on his face. This is also the reason why he is happy to get along with each other. The only problem is that Pan Hu is more of a gossip, and is still a fan of weird and strange stories. He searches the internet for strange stories and anecdotes when he has time, and is keen to share them with Yi Meng. Now, it's time for this again. Although Yi Meng was disgusted in his heart, he habitually turned his gaze to Pan Hu's mobile phone screen. It can be seen that there are several groups of photos taken. The exterior scene is a 3-story old house located alone in the woodland in the outskirts. The retro style of decoration obviously has a history of 20 to 30 years. The interior scene is a photo of the living room, attic, etc. in the old house. The cobwebs and dust in many places have not been cleaned up, and it looks like a decayed old age at first glance. A netizen with an IP address in the Western jurisdiction posted a post saying that the new house that his family just moved to is very weird. Pan Hu looked around and said in a low voice, she said that on the day she first moved into the house, the golden retriever refused to enter the house no matter what, so she left the golden retriever outside. As a result, the next morning, the family woke up and found that the golden retriever dog guarding the tree in front of the door had froze, and the cause of death is unknown. Eating poisonous plants, or being poisoned by people. It is also possible that the golden retriever is at the end of its life. Yi Meng casually commented that some dogs choose to die outside before dying. They also found a number of birds that had crashed into the outer wall at the back of the house. It could be an issue with the lighting in the forest and the location of the hut, and there could be disturbances in the magnetic field as well. There are 5 members of their family, an adult couple, and 3 children who are still in junior high school and elementary school. Among them, the youngest child said that when he woke up in the middle of the night, he always felt that there were moving things under his bed and at the door of the room. Quote, I just moved to a new house and haven't adapted to the environment, and the pet dog I've been with has died. It's normal to have this illusion under pressure. It's not just children. Adults often find that some doors that were closed at night are opened again, and some doors that were opened are sometimes closed suddenly. There are also some strange noises in the attic and basement. Night breeze, mice are also possible. Quote. Pan Hu's eyes widened, and he asked unwillingly, it can't be something really strange and weird. Are you referring to ghosts or something? Yi Meng shook his head. The Federation has been in existence for 200 years, and modern technology is so advanced, it has been discovered long ago. However, the strange talk phenomenon described in the post. It gave Yi Meng a strong sense of familiarity, as if he had seen a similar situation somewhere before. Yi Meng shook his head. He quickly found in his memory a situation similar to the strange story Pan Hu said, except that it did not exist in reality, but a certain movie from his previous life. In the setting of that movie, there really is the word, ghost, and it is an existence that cannot be killed. What's wrong? Pan Hu saw the strange expression on Yi Meng's face. Nothing. Yi Meng shook his head lightly. How could the fictional things in the previous life movies appear in reality? Despite the comfort in his heart, Yi Meng's heart sank and he couldn't stop thinking about it. Now he often has dreams about the background of his previous film and television works, and he also gets feedback from the dreams, so that in reality, he begins to have some characteristics of the sword incarnation and the artificial intelligence incarnation. If those film and television works are real universe time and space, and they are connected with the real world of the current reincarnation. Yi Meng suddenly felt shuddering, and the hairs all over his body stood on end. Perhaps only he knows what that means. Boss, you won't be scared. Pan Hu put away his mobile phone, scratched his head and said, okay, I won't say anything strange. Yi Meng calmed down, looking at Pan Hu's apologetic dark face, looking at the peaceful modern street under the bright sunshine. The chill that welled up in his heart has not completely dissipated. Although, it's just a bold thought. But Yi Meng suddenly felt that the real world of reincarnation might not be as simple as imagined. Walk through the high school gates with other students. Boss, look quickly. Pan Hu's eyes widened suddenly, and he gestured to a place, his eyes showing surprise. Yi Meng looked subconsciously, and it could be seen that it was a black-haired girl wearing a school uniform of the same level. The black-haired girl's facial features were delicate and soft, her bright black long hair cascaded down to her slender waist, and her exposed skin was dazzlingly white. Her black bangs slanted slightly to the right. Under her slender and soft eyebrows, there was a pair of bright red eyes like jewels, the bridge of her nose was just right and small, and her lips were as soft and moist as petals. The other party was wearing the summer uniform skirt of the school. The buttons were buttoned all the way to the neckline of the jacket. The white shirt uniform on the upper body was neat and tidy, with a seductive curve on the chest that could not be concealed. Two white, tender and slender arms were exposed under the short sleeves. Under the black knee-length skirt, two slender and tight legs were wrapped in high-quality black silk, which seemed to shine brightly in the bright sunshine, and they kicked on leather boots. At the age of 18 or 9, she has the youthful sweetness of a young girl, but also mature and intellectual female metamorphosis, and not only her appearance and figure are top-notch, but that noble and elegant temperament is not something that ordinary families can cultivate. So, even if you just wear uniforms, you will still become the focus of attention wherever you go, and become a beautiful line of style. In the whole school, no one does not know her name. Meng Tifa. Our school, the city's celestial girl. Panhu looked at the black-haired girl, and said with some regret, high school is coming to an end, and it will be difficult to see her again in the future. No, you should be able to see her often on TV. Is she famous? Yi Meng glanced at the girl. Panhu looked at Yi Meng strangely. Boss, we have been in the same school for 3 years. You should have heard of her more or less. In the past 3 years, she has been the first in school. The file-size sister of Dream Century, the #1 technology company in this state, has won countless competition awards in Tianhe City. In the past 2 years, Dream Century's external spokesperson has hundreds of fans on the internet. 10,000 starts. Panhu is like a treasure. You know so much, you don't have a crush on him, do you? Yi Meng looked back and joked. Panhu hurriedly covered Yi Meng's mouth, and said in a low voice, don't talk nonsense, it will be over if you are besieged by her fans. She is not from the same world as us. I don't like this kind of girl who has no chance. Panhu said sincerely, and then gave Yi Meng a regretful look. Boss, I remember that 3 years ago, if that mammoth dog hadn't been stopped by you, it would have almost bit her. A little compensation for you. Yi Meng's face was expressionless, and she added a sentence in her heart. In fact, it is not without compensation. At this time, the black-haired girl squinted at Panhu and Yi Meng. Her delicate and soft face was so calm that there was no change, and she continued to enter the teaching building without taking another look. Tifa. Behind her, a tall and handsome male student shouted and chased after her. Panhu gave the man a disgusted look, and said in a low voice, that guy has been chasing him for 3 years, but he still doesn't give up. Panhu started rambling again. In his opinion, that person is definitely not worthy of Tifa. 3 years ago, the other party brought the mutt dog to the school for a walk, and almost bit Meng Tifa. If the boss hadn't stopped him, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Yi Meng returned to the classroom. There are still a few days until the federal college entrance examination, and teachers generally won't teach anymore, and the rest are basically self-study classes, allowing students to review knowledge by themselves. It took Yi Meng a class or two to flip through all the books. The whole process is like the quantum reading method. Afterwards, Yi Meng closed his eyes and found that he could basically recite the knowledge of books backwards. Entering the Marvel dream for the 3rd time, although the feedback I got in reality was far inferior to the second dream, it still improved my memory a bit. Yi Meng tried to open some calculation problems that were previously difficult to understand, and found that with a simple glance, he had already figured out the process and answers of the calculation problems in his mind before he even started to write down the calculations. It turns out that the knowledge of federal high school is so simple. Yi Meng was startled. Arts subjects only need to endorse, while science subjects need to memorize formulas, then substitute them into the questions, and calculate according to the steps. It's so simple that Yi Meng wants to cry. Being human in 2 lifetimes, it was the first time in his life that he felt the difference between a god of learning and a scumbag of learning. Yi Meng knew that it wasn't that the federal high school knowledge had become easier, but that his current brain power had far surpassed that of ordinary people. After reading the book, Complete the Math Problems, Yi Meng found that there is still a lot of time left, but he has not yet figured out how to deal with the artificial intelligence Friday in his dream, and he slept too much yesterday. After thinking about it, Yi Meng suddenly found the history books of the federal high school. Having recently experienced some incredible experiences and ideas, and rereading this federal history book, Yi Meng discovered many weird places that he hadn't noticed before. For example, before the 200-year history of the Federation, there were 30 years of blank history without any records. And 230 years ago, the world was generally at the level of the medieval era. In other words, after the unification of the world, it only took 200 years for the Star Dragon Federation to complete the technological explosion and the leap of the times that took only 1,000 years in the previous life. If the previous life was a technology explosion, then this world can be described as a technology bomb. How did you do that? Yi Meng suddenly remembered that there was only one mythical story circulated in the Star Dragon Federation itself. 200 years ago, a meteor crashes into the west, and a dragon soars in the east. That is also the origin of the Miracle Empire, Star Dragon Federation. Quote, Yi Meng's eyes widened suddenly, his brain was like a computer calculation, and a static light flashed in his mind. If that meteor and the so-called dragon also came from a film and television work he knew in his previous life. Yi Meng stopped thinking. Thanks for watching, subscribe and support my channel.